In medical history, some cases profoundly impact our understanding of the human brain. Some of these advancements came from directly removing and cutting parts of the brain. Interestingly, neurosurgery is a very old practice. The early history of neurosurgery is revealed through skulls, not written records. Across the world from Europe to South America, countless skulls from different cultures and eras show a common practice. People cutting holes into skulls, a tradition over 10,000 years old. The story of Patient H.M. is one such case of complex novel neurosurgery. It all starts with a blow to the head. In Henry's case, it started with getting hit by a bike at the age of 9. Imagine yourself inside Henry's head during and after this bike accident. In normal conditions, his brain is floating in a warm pool of cerebrospinal fluid, cushioned and protected. Author of Patient H.M. Luke Dittrich said, as Henry is thrown into the air, his brain is bombarded with a flood of sensations. He feels the pain from the bike's impact, sees the world spinning as he's knocked off his feet, and watches the ground rushing up to meet him. He hears the sharp sound of his own gasp, and even feels his hair ruffling in the wind as he falls. Everything Henry's body experiences, from the pain to the sights, is merged into a rich, complex stew of sensory data that his brain interprets instantly. This is what makes us aware of the world around us, our consciousness, alive and active in real time. After Henry's fall, he lands hard on the left side of his head, causing a deep gash above his eyebrow. But the real impact is happening inside his skull. As he hits the ground, his brain experiences what are called torsional forces. These forces twist the brain inside his skull, from left to right. At the same time, his brain sloshes forward in its protective fluid, compressing the membranes around it as it crashes against the skull itself. It's like a rubber ball hitting a hard surface. His brain deforms, changing shape, then rebounds. If the brain bounces again, it slows down, and within seconds the force dissipates. If the brain is moving fast enough, it can compress the layers again on the opposite side of the skull, causing a second, less intense impact. The impact causes physical damage inside the brain, but it also sets off a cascade of chemical and electrical events that will have serious consequences. Soon after, Henry starts developing seizures and got his first grand mal seizure 6 years later when he was 15 years old. After being plagued by seizures, Henry sought Dr. William Scoville, a neurosurgeon who aimed to treat Henry's epilepsy via neurosurgery. Scoville believed a new, uncharted brain surgery could alleviate Henry's seizures. This decision had unforeseen consequences, sparking medical debate. It's a story of resilience and hope amidst adversity. All this misfortune doesn't stay with Henry. The surgeon William Scoville and his wife Ruth shared a harsh reality. William Scoville, often referred to as Bill, is the grandfather of Luke Dittrich. Luke Dittrich is the author of the book Patient H.M., a great book I based this video on. Would recommend this if you're interested in the history of neuroscience and the discoveries that were made leading to the surgery. The mentalities of these professionals and their attempts to cure disease is at times haunting but very interesting. A history we should never forget, as those patients who suffered are the reason we are protected today from experimentation and can involve our family members or friends in the process of treatment. Dr. Scoville was a prominent neurosurgeon in the mid-20th century, working at Hartford Hospital in Connecticut. He's best known for performing a groundbreaking but ultimately controversial brain surgery on Henry Molaison. This operation had profound implications for our understanding of memory and the human brain. He was innovative and daring, pushing boundaries in the emerging field of psychosurgery, which sought to treat severe mental illness and neurological conditions by altering brain structures. His approach often involved frontal lobotomies, a procedure that was experimental and risky at the time. As time passed, he refined the procedure, cutting less and less to prioritize precision. Sadly, in January 1944, Ruth found herself in a terrifying situation. Alone in her home in Walla Walla, Washington, she heard strange voices in the cellar, which eventually seemed to move upstairs. These voices belonged to people she knew from the neighborhood, but their whispers made her fear a plot against her and her husband. She spent a restless night, uncertain if the experience was real or a product of her mind. The next morning, she called her husband but was told he was in surgery. Though she felt something was wrong, she was convinced he had been arrested. As she tried to maintain normalcy for her children, her youngest son, Peter, silently mimed something to her. After a moment of realization, she understood. He wanted her to make a rope. Acting on this, she created a noose from strips of fabric, and with a heavy heart, prepared to take a drastic step. She survives thanks to a neighbor who saw her. She had a command hallucination. the most dangerous type of hallucination, as this can lead to action in the real world. This passage highlights her emotional turmoil, isolation, and a tragic moment of deep personal struggle. There's much more to cover in the interesting story about Patient H.M. If you would like a part 2 about Patient H.M., tell us in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the Brainy Bookshelf.